Okay, how do you, everybody? It's August 3rd. I've shot this video on chicken tractors a few times. I've gotten myself building these and talking and all that stuff, and I just shot another one of these the day before yesterday. I was trying to edit it, and man, I have a hard time not rambling on and getting sidetracked. I'm a terrible speaker without somebody there to keep me in check. So we're going to do this again. We're going to talk about chicken tractors. Okay, this is what everybody's doing. This is considered pastured poultry. They're on pasture, and I'll talk about my pasture here in a little bit when we talk about feeding. But first of all, let's talk about construction. Okay, and it's a very basic construction. This is my first generation one, and a lot of people are building these, and a lot of people there's just a few little differences that are nuances. But you're basically going for a 8-foot by 5-foot. Okay, and that gives you 2 square foot per bird. That puts you at 20 birds, 20 bird capacity in here. I'm gonna run mine at about 15, just for a little bit better. Okay, so you got 8 by 5, and so you need 4 2x4s, 4 8-foot 2x4s. Then you're gonna need 2 16-foot cattle panels, okay? Because it takes 1 full cattle panel to make these two center arch sections, and you're gonna measure these at 88 inches at 7'4", and that's enough to allow you, so you get one of these cross braces on both ends, and that'll give you 2 sections from 1 cattle panel. You'll end up with just 1 spline. One of these splines and spikes sticking out each end. That's all that's going to be left of 1 cattle panel. But you'll have your 2 arches done. Okay, so you need to get into your second cattle panel, and I forget the measurement of this, but you pretty much have to cut a big chunk out of your cattle panel and cut the top off. Okay, it's just really awkward. Okay, so remember, 88 inches long. That's something that I wish I would have seen in all the other videos. That they all had their panels pre-cut in their videos. So 8 by 5, 88 inches, and then you cut the 2 ends of the doors, cover that sucker with chicken wire, and I've seen people do that in a number of different ways. We literally just tucked it in one end and rolled it over that way. My stapler's broken, so, and then we have zip ties holding that on. Okay, and then we covered half of it in black plastic. This is God, I can't remember. I think it might be 6 milliliter. That may be 4. No, that's 6. The black is 6. So that's 6 mil plastic, black plastic. We covered half of it, and I covered one end so that they, went ahead and had a wind block in there. Okay, this is a 2nd generation tractor that I made, and I made this modification right here, and that's so I can basically open the door like that without having to open it all the way to the ground, and it's just kind of stops maybe a flood of chickens from coming out, because when you're taking their feeder out, they want to follow the feeder, right? So I made that, and plus you don't have this big awkward door. I kind of like it. I don't know if it's completely worth it yet. It's definitely a nicer one to feed and service. Okay, so let's talk about feed here. And I wanted to, let's see. I hear a lot of people not wanting to do chicken tractors because they don't have great pasture. Okay, as you can see, my pasture is looking pretty rough right now. We just went through a week of over 105 temperatures. We peaked out at 108. It was probably 110 up here in the hills, 115. Anyway, there's still bugs and seeds. There's lots of seeds in here. This is all barley grass, so there's barley seed all over, and there's chicory. I got cover crop in there. Anyway, you don't have to have this immaculate pasture to run these chicken tractors. Okay, there's a spectrum, and at the very bottom of the spectrum is 100% commercial feed, and that's if you were going to do your meat birds in the winter, or if you didn't have pasture. I mean, people do this. They just put their meat birds in a run and they're on 100% commercial feed. That's okay. You can do it that way. That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is 100% pasture, and that's, you know, we all strive for that. It's really hard to hit that. In fact, I've only ever seen a couple people that have done that, and they basically haul in mountains of wood chips, or they got something to feed their chickens. Anyway, when you're talking meat birds like this, the pasture isn't everything, right? Like, you'll do as much commercial feed as needed, and your pasture will relieve the stress of that commercial feed. And they do get fresh pasture. There's bugs and seeds and grass out here, and they do get green stuff. It's a hot season. Anyway, so don't be thinking that just because you don't have these, you know, pastures full of nice cover crop and grass, that you can't run chicken tractors. Okay, so, and then moving on to the commercial feed that I'm using just a regular Purina, which, yeah, we were always looking for better feed that we can afford. But we're using a Purina grower. This is 18% protein, and we're adding a Furtrell Nutri-balancer to it, as recommended by the Joel Salatin model, and several others out there, the Primal Pastures and not Primal Pastures, maybe. Anyway, I'm not name dropping, but the Nutri-balancer stretches your commercial feed and makes sure that they get all the minerals and nutrients that they need on a daily basis. Now that pays off because I'm putting 4 pounds of food in there. There's 12 birds in here right now. I'll put 4 pounds of food in there a day, between 4 and 5 pounds, and they'll, as you see, it's afternoon, and I fed them this morning and it's still half full, and they're just kind of picking, they're lounging, they're not starving, you know. And that's the difference I noticed with the Nutri-Balance, because I also feed this to my layers. I feed the Nutri-Balance to my layers in a 16% protein, and they're calmer. You know, they're not starving. You know, they're not acting like they're starving at every feeding. Of course, they mob the feeder when it first comes in, but 2 minutes later, they're like this. They're chilling out. They're good. So the Nutri-Balance I do recommend. It does stretch that you know, really inadequate commercial feed that we all kind of strive to get away from. Okay, cost effectiveness. I actually came back out to talk about this. So, you know, everything's gone up in the last 2 years, you know, because of the plandemic. So cattle panels, last time I bought any, which was, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. Okay, so they're $50 a piece. So you're looking at $100 just in cattle panel alone, and lumber. You know, you need your 4 boards. And so, you know, what I'm getting at is the cost effectiveness has taken somewhat of a hit, but you have to consider how many pounds of meat you're going to be able to put through one of these tractors. It's gonna do chickens until you're done doing chickens. Okay, so the possibilities of what you can pump through, probably $300 here, is, you know, it's very cost effective still. Okay, this is minimum infrastructure here, even with current prices. So now you can really get nickel and dime to death on feeders and waters. You can see, can you see my homemade feeder here? And I just had that pipe laying around, and I cut it in half. It's a plastic black pipe, and I cut it in half, and you see I mounted it in the board like that. Yeah, you could see that probably. And I can put 5 pounds of feed in there, tops. So it cost me nothing. Scrap wood, scrap pipe sitting around that it had never been used. That black pipe had never been used. It was brand new. Now the waters are something different. These ones I have to fill, as I said, I have to fill these 3 times a day. They're way too small. These are actually from the brooders. I have 3-gallon buckets that cost you know, a little bit. I don't know what they cost. My wife picks them up actually, but you can get nipples that you can drill holes in the bottom of the bucket, and the chickens can drink from the bottom of the nipples, and you can hang it, and that's a much more efficient, and it stays cleaner water. So, you know, don't let you can make your own waters, you can make your own feeders. Don't get nickeled and dimed with things like that. They got a 3-gallon feeder down there at the feed store that's just a bigger version of this. It's $30, so that'd be $60 to get waters for this. Whereas you can buy maybe a 6-gallon or a $6 bucket and get $6 worth of nipples, and you know, have a bucket hanging there, and it would stay clean, and it's just a much more efficient system, and it's, you know, way cheaper. So that's really the cost. That's how you should look at cost effectiveness of this. It is more expensive nowadays, but you can really pump a lot of birds through here. So cost effectiveness, boom.